Vai logo around. So C4.
It's a lot to go through, and I get migraines if you do too much screen time, so it's so much easier.
Yeah, okay, well if you find the email with the link, stick which one's what, but I'll make a note.
We need to do. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, one of the members from my denominational group is going to say a few words. Mr. Olu Efu Wape. Please.
Yeah, you can refer to me as Olu. It's easier. And, oh, sorry about that. So we support the community center in all its activities. We even sing Christmas carols in Christmas, and we engage in we used to engage in the arrangement for the Poppy Fields Festival. Unfortunately, that has not happened in a number of years. Our members are engaged in charities, raising funds, and presently we are raising funds for the hospice. Barbara Hudson Owen is one of the key officers responsible for that. Our pastor is Graham Owen, and we worship on Sundays, Poppy Festival, 10 to 12, and we have tea and coffee afterwards. We welcome everybody. For Sunday, we have a meal together, and then we fellowship. So we reach out to the community, and the community is at the center of our belief. We need to help each other out. So I'm just going to say a very short prayer now. And first I'm going to pray for the health of all members, because without health, you wouldn't be able to function at your peak. So I'm going to ask God to touch every member, their body, their soul, and their spirit. And I'm going to pray that God is present in our midst every time this council meets for deliberations, that God be present himself to guide and lead you by his spirit, so that you can come up with decisions that are pleasing to him first, and they're beneficial to the community at large. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Right, item 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Tuck, Councillor Harper, Councillor Perry, Councillor Carr, and Councillor Gaskell. Are there any other apologies? Yes, Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've got apologies, obviously, from Councillor Harper. Councillor Jones, T. Jones, is an apology. Councillor West, as well, is going to be late. He's just on the train back from London.
Thank you.
And Councillor Ibrahim as well. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I add to the apologies, Councillor Jenkins and Councillor Karen Watts.
lovely. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Additionally, from Councillor Eachus and Councillor Miller. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Eachus. A lot of apologies. Right. Okay. Declaration of interest. Are there any declaration of interest? No. Minutes of the meeting held on 9th and 16th of May 2024. I will move that the minutes of the meeting be signed as a correct record. The only part of the minutes that can be discussed is their accuracy. Yes, what?
I was present, and it says I was.
Oh. That will be corrected. Okay. Are the minutes agreed? Lovely. Now, next item is announcement. And I have got Councillor Leek is not present. I was going to present his long service award, but as he's not here, when we can do that? So we'll do that when we can decide. And next one is that the certificates of service have been posted to former councillors. And the councillors who have received their certificates are Sven Godison, who came to the council in 2006 to 2024. He has given 18 years of service and have represented Basing and Upton Grey. Second is Councillor Graham Faulkner. He was here from 2014 to 2024 with 10 years service and represented Evingar. Next one is Councillor Rebecca Bean, 2011 to 2024, 13 years. She has represented Hatchwarren and Beggarwood. Councillor Stephanie Grant, 2018 to 2024, 6 years service, represented Southam. Councillor David Lake, as he is not going to be here, he has represented 1995 to 2024, 29 years of service. And he has represented Tadley and Pamba, and he's also been mayor twice. Councillor Nick Robinson, 2015 to 2024, 9 years service, represented Bramley. Councillor Laura Edwards, she had 2014 had break-in service till 2018, but she has represented 9 years service, and Chinham, and she was in Winklebury at one time. Councillor Abigail Compton Burnett, 2021 to 2024, 3 years service, Winklebury and Manidown. Councillor Diane Taylor, 2007 to 2024, 17 years service, Oakley and Candovers. And Councillor Ken Rattigan, 2006 to 2024, had a break-in service from 2013 to 2016. Tadley North, Kingsclere, and Bughurst, and he was leader of the Conservative group. These are the one, and now I have got two announcements to make. I have sent my best wishes to GB team, especially our own Ben Pattison, who are participating in Paris for the Olympics. Ben Pattison is competing in the 800 meters athletic event. I have sent my sincere thanks to the team who maintain our parks so well. 3 of our parks have been awarded the prestigious Green Flag, putting them among the very best parks in the UK. Namely, is Beggarwood Park, which I was involved in. Secondly, Eastrop Park, and the thirdly, War Memorial Park. So we have got the very best parks in UK. Right. Question from members of the public, I have none. Petitions, I have none. Resignation and appointments. To receive resignation from committees or to make any necessary reappointments. Are there any changes to committee seats? Oh, Councillor Minnis-Bown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On development control, I'd like to replace Councillor McIntyre, who's currently reserved, for Councillor Ganesh. And on the Resources Committee, replace Councillor McIntyre, who's also a reserve, for Councillor Vox. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any nominations to fill vacancies on the outside bodies listed? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the Vivid Housing Association, the main representative, I'd like to propose Councillor Jenkin, please.
Right.
And just while I'm up, I'm going to be really, really cheeky, Mr. Mayor.
So, sorry.
While I'm up, I'm just going to be really, really cheeky, and I hope you'll indulge me a moment. Just to say, thank you for the chocolates going round, Jay. Can we just give Jay a massive round of applause? Because he's got a... He's had a new arrival to the family, and I understand it came on the night of the football, Jay, is that right? Friday night. She came. That's nice to know. That's lovely. Well, congratulations to you and your wife.
Now we come to...
You need to ask if they agree.
Yeah.
Councillor Harvey's nomination.
Is it agreed that Councillor Harvey, is that agreed? Agreed. Resignation. So nomination outside bodies.
On the capital programme.
Yes, the next item we go to the capital program outturn for 2023 and 2024. Councillor James, would you present the report?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. There's quite a lot of detail, as always, in the capital outturn report. It's been a busy year of investing in our borough, something we're all keen to do. There is some decisions for council to make within the report. I'll run you through the highlights of them. Overall, the picture is one, unfortunately, of, once again, the capital programme remains underspent. However, this year it really is down to one item, and that is the many down money that we haven't quite got to the point in negotiations to trigger the release of that money, which is to fund the infrastructure, because we've all agreed infrastructure first, and that's what we'll do. But we have to get a deal first, then we'll get the infrastructure. That, I imagine, will be coming up in the next couple of weeks, and that money will be released. But obviously the delay, particularly with PERDA periods, which we've had 2, means that it didn't slip into last year and it slipped into this year. Other than that, the capital budget is largely balanced in terms of the expenditure. There were 1 or 2 projects, generally not in our control, that have been delayed and deferred, and there's reasons for that, and they're explained within the report. What we have tried to do, where it's cost effective to do so, is bring some of those other schemes forward so that we end up in a balanced position and our cash flows match. And credit to the officers for managing to achieve that right across the council, not just finance, but obviously in getting the rest of the officers to get projects on track. So that's the situation where we are. There are a few additions to the capital programme that flow from this report. Just scrolling through them quickly. Many of them I won't go into detail because they're related to 106 monies. and specific monies that are for specific purposes where there's probably not going to be much debate or discussion around them because there's not much we can do about them. Although I do think it's worth celebrating, again, Officer success in getting external funding, £100,000 or just shy of, to support the greening of Tadley Leisure Facility, new photovoltaic panels and various other measures to make the structure more green and efficient. So it's really meeting our climate agenda and also improving the facility and making it cheaper. The other things are more challenging. There are some changes to EV charging points. We want to roll out the programme. We're all aware of the delay down to Hampshire County Council not getting the money from government. Not quite sure when that's going to arrive now. But on our own projects, we are rushing through them as quickly as we possibly can. And so there's some extra EV charging funding going in. Particularly, I think there's one in Basing where we're doing the parking bays anyway and want to put the EV charging point at the same time. The other thing is a cost pressure. The replacement of the council vehicles requires an extra £200,000, and that's simply down to inflation. The cost of replacing vehicles has gone up a lot, and a lot more than we expected, and so that's something that's going to be an ongoing pressure in future years on how we keep replacing the vehicles. We have a sort of 6-year rolling scheme, because that's after which point they become, you spend more time repairing, more money and time repairing them than you're using them. So every 6 years we replace them, and obviously those vehicles coming up for replacement this year are going to cost more, something we're looking at to build into the future year's budget. But that's a summary of it. So I'd ask you to approve the items in section 7 of the report, 8 and 9, and note the rest of it. Thank you.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Harvey. Now, Councillor Isaac.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to the portfolio holder. I thank him for the report. It's comprehensive as always and marks some good progress. I know from personal experience how difficult it is to get capital spended in the year, and therefore we as reported, we have delayed expenditure of £7.7 million. It is disappointing that largely relates to further delays in relation to Manydown. I know that he will share our disappointment in that, because clearly we need the homes on Manydown built as soon as possible. So we're all agreed on that. I cannot but reflect that in November there was joy and rapturous acclaim that we were in the home straight with the deal, and it is proving to be a long straight. But I hope that the bout of constipation will soon be relieved and the deal will be signed quickly. Elsewhere, I note that £10 million of planned sales from the property portfolio has been moved out to 25-26. I'm not really surprised. Obviously, this is important because this money, these sales, are going to help pay for some of the big ticket items, such as the Aquadrome, which is going to be ready in 28-29. But history suggests that these sales are going to be hard to achieve. It's a bit of a tall order. And to now have a situation where we're looking to achieve £17.5 million of asset sales in 25-26 does look to be extremely challenging, but I hope that's going to be possible and that we're not going to have to rephase that expenditure once again. Thank you.
Is a second want to reserve time to speak? You want to speak now, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome what Councillor Isaac says. You know, sometimes you've got to smile. After 17 years, come on, after 17 years of waiting, after nearly 30 years of waiting, within 6 months, we've pushed it to the heads of terms. And within 6 months after that, we have got the ink in the pen waiting for the contracts to go to get that first house built on Manydown. This is moving as quickly as this council can push it. And I can assure you it is our priority, it is the officer's priority, and it matters. And it matters for every single village in our borough who over the last 17 years has had to suffer speculative development because we haven't delivered many down. Every single village that has had to take the extra numbers because we hadn't delivered many down has a right to see it delivered, because that's the protection for the future as well. So I understand what you're saying, John, but 17 years for the space of 12 months to get the ink in the pen ready to go says an awful lot of our commitment and where we want to take this. It's really important to us, and we are going to deliver, absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor McCormick.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've been waiting 28 years for Many Down, and I bought a house in Winklebury in the year 2000, and we're 24 years on from then. I asked a question at Cabinet, it was only partially answered. There is a nebulous statement that says when you expect it to complete the current negotiations. It's Q2 of municipal year 24-25. How much confidence can we actually have in that, given how much it has slipped so far? And furthermore, having looked at the table in Appendix 2, I can see lots of things that have shifted rightward for a year. And in particular, things like electric vehicle charging points shifted right by another year. That's exceptionally disappointing when we're aspiring to be a carbon neutral borough by 2030. Perhaps I can have some explanations why, please.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't really going to speak. However, obviously it affects Winklebury and Many Down. We're having nearly £8 million worth of underspend on a project that we've all been waiting for a long time. I mean, Councillor Isaac, you made a great point. You know, we are all disappointed. We all want to see those houses. And I'm slightly dismayed by the point around PERDA, and we can't, progress things during PERDA. From my understanding, that PERDA is around the communications of things rather than actually having officers get on and do stuff in the background, which they could have probably done. And Councillor Harvey, I mean, it's great. Yes, you have progressed it. The ink may be in the pen, but the pen's not on the paper, and we don't know how long is that going to take. At the moment, we've got no scrutiny of the decision. We got rid of the Many Down Overview Committee. At the last committee, I think it was, we were told that by Urban and Civic that they were expecting houses to be spouting out of the ground by Christmas time. Which Christmas? Is it going to be Christmas this year, Christmas next year, or Christmas in 30 years' time when my son stood here, just like I am when we first bought the land in '96? Thank you very much.
Councillor Muma Leni.
Thank you. Good evening. My questions are specific to my ward here on the capital spendings. First of all, let me thank the officers for at least starting the Sinclair Drive works, which has been postponed for several times. And they started last time at the same time. Co-leader promised that shifting 23-24 to 24-25 doesn't mean 1 year shift. It may be 1 month shift or 2 month shift, but it is not 1 month. We just started the works, and it is going on. We don't know when it's going to be. But these questions are specific, and I would like to ask it. Probably it is due to my limited knowledge on the accounting principles. So if you look at the, may I draw your attention to para number 2.21, where it says there is 150,000 allocated for this budget, which has been slipped. Okay? And if I combine that one to table 8, where the play area funds for 24-25, completely, that 242,000 has been moved to 24-25 to 25-26. I'm not really sure where we are getting the money to deliver that Sinclair Drive Play Park area. Can my co-leader give me some more insight on where we are getting the funds from and the what will be sufficient for that? And my second question, I would like to touch upon to the para number 12.23. Here it is about the Cranbourne swimming pool improvement works. And it categorically says this project will be done within first quarter of 24-25. Para number 2.23, 24-25 first quarter, we are finished. Can you please update me whether the Cranbourne swimming pool works have really completed? If they have completed, what exactly they have done? The reason why I ask this, Mayor, is I visit Cranbourne School quite regularly. As a parent, as a county councillor, the head teacher every time says that, they need funding for the swimming pool, but I'm not aware of any borrow funds delivered to improve that one. And finally, I would like to touch upon the same EV charging points, which is being moved from 24-25 to 25-26. There is no relation here. This is my honorable colleague last time promised that these charging points which were promised are delivered by Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council funding, and they are moved to next year. And there is no mention of these in the Culver Road project which you promised us. Can you please be specific about when that will be delivered and which budget these will be delivered? And finally, I would like to make a comment here. In 24-25, the capital budget that we all agreed in this chamber was 20 million, and we only delivered 12 million worth of project. We missed 40% of what? Because of whatever the reasons it is. But in 24-25, our target is, assume what it is. It is 35 million pounds. That means we are committing to a project of 300% increase. And look at 26-27, and we are committing for 40 million. That is 400% what we have delivered in 23-24. So to deliver 300% performance as a council, as an officer, is it really possible? Are we really achieving the amount that we can digest? Or are we hiring some superhumans or superheroes? If we did some categorical changes here, what changes have been in place to deliver this 300% and 400% of capitals in the next 2 years? Can you please explain us? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Cubitt.
Yes, hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of comments I want to make in relation to the Manydown. Firstly, we want to thank the officers. They have been, Councillor Lee, I can assure you, working throughout PERDA. And the Chief Executive in particular, we want to give massive thanks to, because he's really gone beyond, above and beyond in pushing this forward. As those that are in the know, property transactions, when they get to the legal stage, are notorious for taking a number of months. Councillor Isaac came to our cabinet, if I recall correctly, I think it's online, in 2023, to say that he was sad that he had not been able to persuade his cabinet to get the transaction over the line. So we are unbelievably excited that we have achieved this fantastic...
you don't have a right to reply.
No, there is no right to reply, I'm afraid. And you...
It's not a right to reply.
So anyway, just to recap for those who might be watching, the council, together with Hampshire County Council, spent 10 million of the council houses stock transfer, and they promised to the council housing tenants that they would build houses, and we are going to fulfill the promise that was made to them in 1996, and I'm very proud to be part of that administration. And in response to Councillor McCormack, you asked, and you came to Cabinet on Tuesday, and you said you didn't get a full answer. I apologise if I hadn't been clear. I am 100% confident that the contract is going to be signed imminently. Okay? And that's on record. A bit like Councillor Isaac's comment is on record too. And just as a final note, again in response to Councillor Isaac's kind of sour grapes, the heads of terms were agreed. Sour grapes. The heads of terms were agreed by this administration within 3 months of this administration coming control of this council. And in the intervening periods between 1996 and 2023, the Conservative administration spent millions of pounds and failed to fulfil the commitments that were made to the council tenants in 1996. I think the hours and the time and the years that have gone past speak volumes for your incompetence.
Sorry. Yeah, so, yes, Councillor McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to repeat what Councillor Cubitt said and thank the Chief Executive and the hard-working officers for all the hard work you have done. I mean, if you'd believed the press release in November, the Herculean efforts where the individual in question blood, sweat and tears to almost get it over the line. And of course, here we are. July, still not there. Maybe we'll get another press release in November when we're getting just that little bit closer. But again, thank you, officers, for all your hard work that you've done to get us here so far. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the many down deal has been covered. I would say that we've achieved more in 17 months than the various Conservative administrations achieved in the previous 17 years. When you're going 0 to 60, it takes a little bit of time, but don't blame the people trying to get to 60. Ask questions of the people who started at 0, because it's really down to them. In relation to the property deals, it's a bit concerning. Councillor Isaac probably doesn't fully understand his property investment strategy that I've inherited. It's a good strategy. The expectation within the capital programme was that every year around £10 million worth of property would be sold and then reinvested into the purchase of £10 million worth of property that yielded a better income, greater security, etc., or fit the strategic needs of the borough as in accordance with that strategy. He'll be aware that interest rates went up quite a lot, can't remember why, but they did. They went up to such an extent that obviously the investment market suddenly got very excited about financial investments because there's a greater level of return and less interest in property. Remember when interest rates were low, property values went up because people were interested in that because it was yield better than financial investments. That switched, which means obviously the movement within the property market has been slower, and that's why you can see 10 million coming out, but also, well, 10 million hasn't come in, which means 10 million can't go out because we're not buying more property. We're just recycling that money. In terms of on-street parking, and again it relates to the other EV charger points, Hampshire County Council are responsible for highways. They are responsible for fitting the EV chargers in highways. This was covered by Councillor Tomlin previously and explained, although I know when you cut it out and put it on your Facebook page, you missed a lot of what he said. Be more careful this time. So we are dependent on them. Unfortunately, and credit to them, they are dependent on government funding, which hasn't been released, is not expected to be released till April, which has delayed a number of the schemes. Some of the EV chargers we're fitting, we are basically subsidising those chargers to put more on our land, because if we add a bit, they can fit more chargers. So until they get their funding, we can't add our funding to it to deliver the chargers. So that's why there's been a delay in some of the chargers that have been delivered so far. I think that covers everything that was asked. In relation to the Sinclair Drive play area, which we're all sick of, we've all walked over and are glad there's some progress. I understand that some money has been moved into revenue because of the nature of the work that's being done to do the underground drainage systems. So there's a movement to the revenue account to pay for some of that, which is why it's come out of the capital programme, but I will check. And finally, the sports pitches, I will have to defer to Councillor Morrow, who will get an answer sent to you around whether that work's been completed, because I haven't been there myself to check. Thank you.
Agreed.
Now we come to item 9, revenue report 2023. Councillor James, would you present the report?
Well, give me a moment. Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is the outturn revenue report. You'll see it's come to a £1.16 million underspend. I'm trying to find it on here. This relates, there's a number of changes within it. Primarily, we got a boost in revenue because one of the luxuries of underspending on the Manydown deal meant that money sat in the bank for a little bit longer and gave us a little bit more interest than we were expecting. So that increased our revenue, which was just as well because, again, interest rate, the inflation has been higher, costs have gone up, which means that's managed to offset some of the things that are under forecast because we thought inflation would come down quicker than it actually did in the original forecast, and it was done in 2023, which Councillor Isaac will remember because he had been working with Adam and Sue to achieve that. The rest of it, so what we're left with, as those two balance each other out, is £570,000 worth of delayed spend. These are projects that are ongoing, so the money will be spent on those projects. There's often problems getting procurement. There is a genuine 590,000 underspend, which can be linked to the solar panel money that we put aside to look at solar panels on roofs of community centres, because the Property Services Department were doing a lot of surveying work anyway on those roofs and the buildings in general. Both bits of work were put together, so it was covered out of existing budget, so that became a surplus. The intention and the request to Council was to approve that goes into the MTFS risk reserve. You'll be aware when we agreed budget last year, or back in February, there is a deficit towards the end of those years, in third and fourth years, so that money will help us give us some space to address those deficits in those future years. So I ask Council to approve. I think I'm just checking. You just note it, I think. Council, can you note it?
Second, Mr. Mayor, I'll reserve my right to speak. I'll reserve my right to speak, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to congratulate the portfolio holder and officers for keeping close to budget this year, with only £1.16 million unspent from the budget. I suppose it is a little concerning that some of the savings relate to the leisure park and money that's not been spent on sites other than the aquadrome. I think this will be disappointing potentially to residents, because I'm sure they're expecting an exciting revitalised leisure park packed with new entertainments that goes beyond the aquadrome that's due to be ready in 28-29. We all know the leisure park in Basingstoke, our leisure park, has got massive potential. Furthermore, as Councillor James knows, because he's been copied in on the correspondence, there has been a slow start to the third round of the cost of living assistance fund of £1 million. And I know him well enough to know that he will be encouraging officers to get that money out as soon as possible, because it's going to the most needy members of our society. And there was obviously the first two rounds of £1 million each there was considerable demand for that. So all I would do to conclude is to wish him well for the future. There may be some clouds of uncertainty on the horizon. I note that the Labour leader, Councillor Lee, has confirmed there is no coalition with this administration. And to quote him, or that's how it's reported, to quote, "With Labour at the helm in the country, I want to show residents of Basingstoke and Dean that a Labour-run council can deliver." So I suppose I should welcome Councillor Lee to the opposition side of the House. Good to have you with us. Thank you.
With a £1 million outturned surplus, it's just a shame that we didn't have a properly costed report on the temporary ice rink last night. That may have helped the debate.
Is going to the carry forward reserve, because they're schemes that are ongoing and will still be needed. So that's not spare money, it's money that's already been allocated and not spent yet. So actually the actual outturn is only £590,000, just so there's no confusion. It's not like there's lots of spare money flowing around this council, despite what people seem to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I have not called you as Gavin James, which I should have done, you see, because there is Councillor Laura James as well, but I know who I am speaking to.
So is that agreed or noted? Agreed. That's good. So now we come to item 10, which is Cledisden Neighborhood Plan. Councillor Konietzko, would you present the report?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It seems like neighbourhood plans in Basingstoke are like the proverbial buses. We wait ages for one to come along, in this case the best part of 12 months, and then two arrive in consecutive council meetings. But that's a good thing because I'm a big fan of neighbourhood plans. I know that a lot of colleagues here across the whole chamber share that same sentiment as well. They're an important part of our planning policy system. They play an important role in supporting our local communities. They also require a huge amount of investment in time and effort, which is why I'd like to thank everybody involved in bringing this neighbourhood plan for Cledisden to council this evening. I'm very pleased to commend this plan to you. I hope you agree to adopt it, and I hope that you also join me in thanking officers and the team in Cledisden for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Harvey, yeah. Would anyone like to speak? Councillor Grassi.
That's better. Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. In May, I was very honoured to be elected as a borough councillor to represent the ward of Basing and Upton Gray. One of the villages in our ward is the beautiful Cledisden. I've found it very special to get to know the parish council and the number of residents who work tirelessly for their community. Cledisden has hardly changed over the years since my husband's grandfather came to work there as a gamekeeper and lived at Audley's Wood Cottage on the Audley's Wood estate. Cledisden continues to have a special place in our hearts and is still as beautiful today as it was then. This, of course, echoes the feeling of the residents of Cledisden have towards the area and mirrors the work of the neighbourhood plan team. The team for the policy work were Brian Carley, who led the team, Mark Gifford, who was the spokesperson and coordinator for the parish council, Alison Mosson, David Brown, Alan Tyler, and Sue Turner. Their tireless efforts have been essential in creating a plan that reflects the true Cledisden, and their unwavering commitment has been the driving force behind its success. So I would like to give a special thanks to the team for their dedication in preparing and producing this excellent neighbourhood plan for Cledisden. Thank you all, and I commend this plan to the council.
Councillor Grassi, you're going to speak. So, we've got Councillor McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome this plan. It's a very comprehensive plan. My ward is the other side, the M3 from Cledisden, so there is an interest in the future of the adjacent community. I would like to ask members of the administration opposite what their position is on the elephant in the room, which is the prospect of 2,500 houses at some point in the future, Upper Swallock. Are they in favour of Upper Swallock or are they against Upper Swallock? If they are in favour of Upper Swallock, there are massive implications for Brighton Hill in terms of traffic and access. So can I have some assurances that there'll be the necessary investment in Brighton Hill, both in terms of community infrastructure, which we've not had significant developer contributions for many years, unlike other wards in the borough, and some realistic appraisals of transport to alleviate the already mounting problems of congestion in the ward. Not least, we've had £20 million spent on a roundabout that has improved things a lot, but we're expecting even more houses to be built and even more traffic to congest that in future years. If they are against it, what assurances can I have that it won't go ahead? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Congratulations, Councillor Grassi, on your amazing speech. Only some quick words for me. I want to congratulate the hard work that the Parish Council and community have put in to produce this plan. The Localism Act introduced a mechanism for our local communities to have a greater say in the future of their areas, and I think it is testament to how our communities do want to have a say in that there are now 14 made neighbourhood plans that are used in the determination of relevant planning applications. In my own parish of Sherburn, St John and Rookstown, we relied upon our newly drafted neighbourhood plan to support us in defending speculative development in our ward. I wish Cliddeston Parish well in defending against similar applications. Unfortunately, if you pay heed to the scare stories in the press, our new Labour government threatens to ignore local opposition if it has to deliver more homes. I do hope this is not the beginning of the end of community engagement across our borough. We have already had the news in the King's speech that housing targets are to be reinstated. I'm sure that will be news to our independent Lib Dem-led council, because they've spent the last year telling our residents that their hands are tied, they can't reduce the housing number, and that our housing targets were centrally imposed. I was going to make mention here of the stormy waters our villages face, with an ill-thought-out approach to planning, imposing inappropriate development, whilst overruling the wishes of communities with no concern about bulldozing our rural heritage. But I'm at a loss at who I'm actually talking about, the Labour Party in government or the Independent Party in council. So in conclusion, Mr Mayor, I want to conclude by saying well done again to everyone involved. I commend this plan. I appreciate the hard work and effort that they've put into making this plan, and let's hope we can continue this engagement from our residents. Let's listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, congratulations to Cliddeston. It is wonderful, and as long as we are in administration, we will always encourage local communities to shape their future, and we'll get our support in every way we possibly can. I just really stood up there as well to just assist one of our newer councillors, Councillor McIntyre, who really struggles with some technical detail. There's a thing called the National Planning Policy Framework. He's possibly never read it, may have coloured it in once. But that includes, when Michael Gove changed it, the only tiny tweak he made was that in exceptional circumstances and greenbelt land. And our greenbelt land is a specific pieces of land dotted around the country. You can download a PDF. I think I tweeted it to you once, but you probably couldn't work out to download it, which tells you where the greenbelt land is. There's none of it in Basingstoke and Dean. So we continued because actually the changes to the MPPF changed nothing for us. It's just as well, because those changes are probably, we'll find out at the end of the month when the MPPF is updated, means that we're back to square one. But we never actually got onto square two. We've been on the same square throughout the whole thing. So we got a sleight of hand from Michael Gove, who obviously was a very smart man and confused most Conservatives, including our former MP. And now we've got a Labour government saying that we will build exactly the same number of homes as the last government were building, but we're changing the MPPF again. So nothing, in words of Theresa May, nothing has changed. So be rest assured of that. Thank you. There was a housing target before.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just going to remind the Chamber and the public at large that we've unfortunately suffered the most terrible blight of speculation in the last 4 years because of the incompetence of the previous administration.
Councillor Lee. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wasn't, again, not going to talk on this, but, but honestly, like, Councillor McIntyre just had to go in with the blow, Labour, back in power, etc., etc. First of all, I'll start, though. Councillor Isaac, yes, we are in opposition, and we've been in opposition since the current administration have been elected into power, and also when you guys were in power. You see, this is the Labour Party That is the Lib Dem and the Independents. You can tell by the title that we are opposition. Congratulations to Clidston for their neighbourhood plan. Obviously, it is a big achievement, something that we need to move more towards for our community in Winklebury and Manydown, ones that are unable to make these community plans just because of their geographic location. And it'd be something that maybe the current administration could look into on how we can approach planning at the neighbourhood level for those communities. Councillor James, you brought up a good point around the MPPF and in exceptional circumstances, and I think this is, we've spent a lot of time this evening praising the hard work of officers who have seen and looked through for these exceptional circumstances, and they haven't found any. And yet the Conservatives over this side still try to make out that there is some magical exceptional circumstance that they can pull out of a magic hat, and all of a sudden our house numbers can be paused and stopped and lowered. The reality is officers have worked hard to try and find that, and they have found no answer to your questions. And I'd also say that across Basingstoke, residents have unanimously voted against the rhetoric and your actions and plans and desired dreams for Basingstoke by voting you out of office for the last 2 terms. The last 2 elections, you have lost councillors. You haven't gained, you've lost councillors. And then to top it off, you've gone and lost 2 MPs in a borough of 4. So what does that tell you? Change your plans. Maybe look towards some collaborative working and work with us. Work with the or with the administration to try. They will be soon. If you read the paper, they will be soon. And Councillor James and Councillor Harvey were well aware that I would stick up for the Labour group and I would challenge them where challenge was needed. But let's work collaboratively rather than this rhetoric, and hopefully we can get more neighbourhood plans out the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would you like to speak about as a seconder?
I'll speak now and as a seconder and use my time.
Thank you.
That's fine, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is an incredibly important subject, and I think people are sick to the back teeth of jokes and jibes and sillinesses on social media, and the sheer diatribe of silliness on planning that comes from certain groups in this chamber. People deserve better. They deserve a serious conversation about planning in our borough, and that's why the Local Government Association, cross-party, has not only challenged the previous government, but is currently challenging the new government on the delivery of the key things that we need: infrastructure, social housing, socially rented housing. We have 5,500 people on our housing waiting register. They need homes. We need to provide those homes. But they need to be provided with the infrastructure that goes with them: the buses, the doctors' surgeries, and the other key essential elements that make a place, not just housing. So that's the conversation we should be having, not silly, stupid jibes at each other over planning. And I'm sorry, but when you get Facebook posts that say an MP is desperate to save the green belt, and we have no green belt, that kind of misleading scaremongering amongst residents is actually quite serious. So let's just dial this back. The housing targets were applicable under the Conservatives, and they are going to be applicable under Labour. They haven't gone anywhere, and all the legal advice under the sun says as much, and all the planning inspectors have said as much. Speeches alone don't make planning law. The NPPF does. And the devil has always been in the detail. And the detail is that the standard method of housing calculation applies. And you can twist it and you can play with it, but the truth applies. It would apply in front of an inspector, and if we lost the local plan because we wanted to play silly games with it, all of our villages and all of our communities would suffer from speculative development. And we're not going to play that game of Russian roulette. We have got to get this right. So we do have to work together. We do have to try and find some common ground across this chamber to eventually approve a local plan, so that, yes, we can build the houses in the communities that need them, And yes, we can house people off the register. Yes, we can build the socially rented housing. And I make no apology for saying socially rented housing. We can work with our partners in Vivid and Sovereign and so on, who we want to step up. We want to see them step up and help us. And we can concentrate on getting Many Down done, because Many Down is a big key to this whole agenda. So I know we've had a bit of a knockabout tonight, but the reality is there's some really serious business to be done. You were already doing it, to be fair. You were working through your local plan. We may have some differences, but the fundamental point is we need one on the books, and we've got to move now, because if we don't get it done, the goalpost will move. And I don't want them to move. I want to use the rules we've got to get what we've got, because I think it will benefit our borough now to get it done. So we get it done on all of those grounds and working together. Let's put the silly politics to one side for once, please, all the silly jibes on social media, all the stupidity with photographs about accusing, oh, you're a former Labour leader and all that. Stop being so stupid with this debate and let's just get on with the job that they've been elected to do for once.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Minnesbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to look to the future. For lots of things, I think we do agree across this chamber. We had a unanimous vote that we wanted to protect our borough from enormous numbers of housing. And I think we all do agree that we want to find the best way of having a local plan that works for us and all of our wards. But there is an elephant in the room. I think Councillor McCormick's absolutely right. And this isn't a party political jibe. This is because I think we do all in this room believe in localism and neighbourhood plans, that I think we and lots of people in our borough are currently holding our breath. We're holding our breath to see what's taken out of our control. So we may have sites, we may have housing targets, but I suspect what we all know in this chamber is we also have lots and lots of large strategic sites, many more than lots of our district council colleagues. That puts us and our residents and our wards and our villages at risk of new towns and new villages. I absolutely applaud Cliderson's neighbourhood plan, but I think we all know that at the heart of it is also a concern that Upper Swallock and other large strategic and promoted sites that aren't even in our local plan draft are at risk of being taken out of our control, and I'm sure I will not be the only one that is holding my breath until whether it comes out in the NPPF changes that may appear in August or something else when it comes to new towns and new villages.
Thank you. Councillor Howard Sorrell.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to congratulate everybody in the room on sticking so closely to the topic at hand. As the Vice Chair of DC, we deeply appreciate, me and the other councillors that sit on the committee, every neighbourhood plan that comes before us, because they allow us to make better decisions for the residents that have spent so long putting them together. So I just wanted to stand up and congratulate the people of Clidston and the people that have been driving this forward in getting this over the line, because without it, we wouldn't be able to make the best decisions for them. You really need to just stick to the topic, guys. Come on.
Thank you. Councillor Konietzko, would you like to sum up?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for a lively debate on the subject of a neighbourhood plan. I thought this was going to be a quick wave it through and off we go, but no, it's been an interesting 15 minutes, and obviously everyone's right in this chamber to raise those points. I'm not going to talk any more about the NPPF and the housing numbers. I think Councillor Harvey's made the position very clear from the administration side, and we'll wait to see what happens later on this month when the consultation on the new NPPF is published. In terms of Upper Swallock and the other big major developments that people have raised, I understand the concerns. I have to be very careful what I say. I don't want to be accused of predetermination as we progress our local plan update. We have to be very much evidence-led. What I would say is Upper Swallock wasn't in our draft Regulation 18 site allocation. If you have a look at the comments that have been published this week around the Regulation 18 consultation, you can probably take a view as to whether you think Upper Swallock is likely to be included in there or not going forward.
What I would say is, regardless of how you interpret that data, we are looking at taking the local plan to the new E&I committee in October for further scrutiny. We'll talk about the site allocation, we'll talk about the policies then. So if anyone is concerned, you have an opportunity then to tell us what you think. And then the final point was around engagement and the need for continued community engagement. And I think I'd like to share a story, actually, which is relevant to this. It's from Cliddesden. So last year, as many of you will know, Paul and I did a roadshow around our town and parish councils to talk to them about the Regulation 18 consultation and our views on the local plan. In most of the meetings, maybe we got about a dozen people turn up, including the town and parish councillors. And we had a session in Cliddesden right towards the end, and I turned up there in the evening to the local village hall and noticed that the car park was quite full. I thought, oh, there must be something interesting going on here. Maybe there's a scout meeting or maybe there's a yoga class next door to where we're presenting. But it turned out people are actually there to talk about the local plan. There are about 100 people in the room in Cliddesden wanting to find out more about the local plan. So the point that's been made about community engagement, it does happen, and it's our job as an administration and our job as councillors, I think, to make sure that continues to happen in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that agreed? Yep. Now we come to item 11, Treasury Management 2023-24 Annual Report. Councillor Gavin James, would you present the report?
It's actually an officer report, this one, so it's not for me to present. The officers operate under the financial investment strategy that's been agreed by full council, because clearly they're the experts. What you can see from the report is that the long-term investments have yielded slightly less. Again, it's the increase in interest rates, which means bizarrely we're getting more out of our short-term investments and cash in hand from sort of the current account effectively than we're getting from savings. There was one investment that was cashed in this year. It's one that's been underperforming for many, many years, and that was cashed in once it reached its base level. Because the investment funds hold bonds that are older, you will see that the values of them have been dampened down, clearly because new financial products have a higher interest rate. Newly issued bonds will be better than the ones that were in the system. That's inevitable, but it hasn't impacted on the yield. The yield essentially was greater, as mentioned, in the revenue, because we've had a bit more money sitting in those accounts for a little bit longer than we expected because of capital delays. That did generate extra revenue. And I don't think there's really much else I can add. It's an officer report. I'm just clearly here. I thought you were presenting it, to be honest. Otherwise, I would have prepared something.
Is there a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Harvey. Councillor Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's good to see from this report that our finances, our treasury management, remain in good shape. And so I'd like to thank officers and all those involved in maintaining that good performance. What I wanted to say is something that was raised in audit and accounts, and that is the fact that this council holds a very considerable amount of its treasury management investments in bonds, and much greater than many other local authorities. And it's fair to say that the performance of those investments, some £58 million, I think, has over the last 8 years, as is revealed in the report in Chart 4, that the performance of those, they're long term, they are secure, but their performance has not been terribly good. Certainly, in many cases, not meeting the inflation. So I welcome the fact that we've taken the decision to appoint new advisors, Link Services. It may well turn out to be the case that what we're doing is the right thing, but it is good that there's going to be some fresh pair of eyes, some fresh pair of minds, some fresh minds to look at that very important aspect of our treasury management. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to speak? No. Now the seconder. Would you like to speak? No. So, Councillor Gavin James, would you like to sum up?
Yes, absolutely correct. We tend to hold bond funds. We used to buy a lot of government bonds. They're very boring but very safe. Part of the agenda with the financial investment strategy last time round, I think you were in charge at the time, was to look at bond funds. They're a little bit more risky, but you generally get a higher rate of return, and that's what we've done. The value of the bonds is probably not particularly important because it's the value when you sell it. And obviously we're in a lucky position that we can sell it at a place we decide to sell it rather than being under pressure to do so. But I would totally agree with Councillor Isaac. A fresh pair of eyes can check, are we doing the right thing? I'm very impressed with the audit committee. They won't let our Treasury management team away from anything. They'll be watching everything. It's good.
Thank you. Is that agreed? Yep. So we come to the annual report of the Standards Committee 2023-24. I move the report.
I'm happy to second it.
Would anyone like to speak? Yes, Councillor Howard Sorrell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say, it's been an absolute pleasure to sit on the committee with Verity as the chair for the last couple of years. She's done a fantastic job. Sad to see her go, but it's looking like we're getting somebody equally brilliant in to replace her. So I just wanted to give my thanks to the former chair and to the new chair as well.
Thank you. Is that agreed? All right. Now, come to overview and scrutiny annual report 23-24. I move this, yes, the annual report. So I move this report. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone like to speak? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give a little something as the former chair of what used to be the CEP, Community Environment and Partnerships Committee. It was a privilege to serve on that committee as the chair in its former what's the word? Iteration, yeah. It's a long day. I did want to say a thank you to the officer who was there supporting me throughout, Ellie Cole. Hopefully she won't mind being on YouTube and also in the minutes. She did give me a great deal of support throughout the time that I was there. Over the course of the year, we did try to turn it more into a scrutiny function. And towards the end, we did spin up the task and finish groups. And it was good to see last night in the now Resident Services Committee that actually that scrutiny is carrying on through the report on the ice rink last night, in which there was quite a lengthy and healthy debate on the ice rink and the report that was brought forward, but also that more task and finish groups will continue, which I think makes the committee structure a stronger place to be and hopefully deliver for our residents. But overall, yeah, a great privilege to have served, so thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? No. Is that agreed? Now I come to the question from members of the council on notice. The first question, Councillor Moma Laneni.
Thank you, Chair. Last year, residents of Church Square sent a letter to the council about rat infestation with pictures highlighting the issue. While I'll acknowledge that the environmental and health team carried out some work, it appears to have been only a temporary solution. Recently, residents have once again brought to this my attention. During a visit to this area, I personally witnessed a family of rats in broad daylight mingling with pigeons in the park opposite to Marks and Spencer, as if they were having a picnic. I have shared a video with the council officers, and a fellow resident has mentioned witnessing rats on a daily basis. In November 2023, John Horsley, a technical support officer at the British Pest Control Association, warned that the public in the Basingstoke is in significant danger from rats if the problem is not effectively addressed. Given these concerns, may I request the portfolio holder to provide information on what kind of proactive long-term strategy is in place to address this persistent problem? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Aaron. Just for clarification, the video that you sent showed one rat. I'm disappointed that you're using the pest control, just one rat, Pest Control Association's expert quote selectively. The quote was from them wasn't related to Basingstoke directly. It was a general quote about rats, and in something we all know, when rats come into your home, workplaces, and other more high-risk sites like hospitals and schools, they pose a significant danger to the health of the general public. We take the responsibility extremely seriously, and there are 6 officers in our environmental health team who investigate any issues raised with us and give pest control advice. We have a pest control service that addresses issues on our land and provides free treatment to those on means-tested benefits. Where our environmental health team identifies an issue of serious infestation, the identified boroughs that they have on their land, we advise landowners on the best control work they need to carry out. We worked with residents to resolve the rat problem in Church Square and Glebe Gardens to address the issues stemming from a particular property. In response to the more recent issues reported to us in Church Square, we have identified action for another private landowner that could help resolve the problem. We have written to residents in the area asking them to report any further concerns to us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You are in time. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would like to bring the attention. I'm not an expert photographer to take multiple rats sitting there and there. I can't run after every rat to take a picture for everyone. And this quote, I quote here, this is from the Basingstoke Gazette. Rat infestation in Basingstoke is public health concern, and it categorically mentions at the town centre, and they mentioned about the Glebe Gardens in this article as well. And I'm not quoting, which is out of the hat here. It is the quote that is given by them, and it is published in the newspaper, which is popular in Basingstoke.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Thank you for the supplementary. I think I was told it was National Pigeon Week last week or something, so I was really disappointed that we didn't have a picture of the pigeons as well. But I look forward to lots more pictures from you, and thank you very much.
Now we come to the next question, Councillor Tustain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In October last year, I asked a question about when we would expect to see a thorough clearing of our paths, our alleyways and our curbsides that have become increasingly overgrown with weeds and grass in the tarmac, between paving stones and in drainage. And as said then, the growth gives an impression of neglect, it damages the footpath infrastructure and makes the paths less easy for those with mobility issues. So although I do recognise some work has been done, there are many areas becoming more overrun with pernicious weeds. So would the Cabinet member please give an update on progress and an idea of when she expects to finally see the work keeping up with growth? Thank you.
Councillor Laura James, would you please respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a new contract with Specialist Weed Company to carry out the spraying that is needed on public land in the borough. This has been a major improvement on the work carried out in previous years. We should remember that the Conservatives cut weed spraying in the borough to just 2 sprays in a year. We are exploring reinvesting an additional weed spray, which reflects our commitment to putting frontline services first. The first treatment this year is nearly complete. These treatments take a while to take effect and the weeds to be killed. We have been monitoring the situation with a new inspection regime in place. Any areas where the treatment has not been effective, we have raised with the contractor for retreatment. We have an action plan to address the overgrowth and the shrubs and weeds, including more sweeping of pathways. Our investment in frontline service is now beginning to make a difference. We plan to hold an all-member briefing to share our improvement plan. I walked the area of concern with you and officers in Popley. Officers have been monitoring these areas and have carried out a walkabout with a weed contractor last Friday. Although some of the areas were slow to respond to the treatment, there is a clear signs of dieback now. This is largely due to the size of the weeds, as it takes longer for the chemical to work. The team are now trimming these weeds. The spraying started in June. In future, we will bring this forward and be spraying in March and April. There will be another spray in September and October, and we will continue to monitor the effectiveness of the treatments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do you have a supplementary question? No. Thank you. So now we come to question 3, which is Councillor Arun.
Yeah. Given that the regeneration plans for Basingstoke Town Centre have been in the pipeline for several years and have involved numerous consultations, could the portfolio holder kindly provide a clear timeline and concrete steps for when we can expect to see a tangible actions and progress on these plans?
Councillor Cubitt, would you please respond?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Mummalaneni. And just before I start my response, I can assure Councillor Vokes that we take all of these matters extremely seriously. Our residents and this borough are at the pinnacle of importance for all of us. Your timing of this question is completely perfect, Councillor Mummalaneni. At Cabinet on Tuesday, and as covered in the Basingstoke Gazette today, our Cabinet announced a package of improvements and investment over the next 12 months to inject civic pride back into the historic heart, the top of town. The success of the top of the town is incredibly important to us, and we want it to be vibrant and welcoming for residents and visitors alike. And although we love our town centre, we know that investment is desperately needed. We met with many of our wonderful local businesses from the top of town in May, and we share their desire and aspirations for the area. We want to be proud of the top of town. We want residents to throng there and for our businesses to thrive and grow. We listened, we heard, and we are delivering. We have cleaned the pavements and Market Square. We've removed vape stickers from bins and cleaned street furniture, and we are repainting railings throughout the area, despite them being the responsibility of Hampshire County Council. We are in the process of improving the planters to bring more colour to the area, and we're going to pollard and lift the trees and install festoon lights. These are just some examples of what we've started to do, and we are passionately committed to supporting businesses in any way we can. We want to promote a buzzing cafe culture. We have made it easier for businesses to have outdoor seating areas by reducing the public liability insurance required from 10 million down to 5 million. This was costing our local businesses a great deal of extra money. So we've listened to what they've said and we've taken action.
Time.
We want to encourage live music and we will work with businesses. I just want to say a huge thank you to businesses for working with us. You are the bloodline of our local economy, and we will continue to work with you to create a top of town that we can all be proud of.
It's time.
Thank you.
Now, Councillor Arun.
Thank you very much for the detailed answer here. Mayor, I would like to bring to your attention with you that I'm talking about in Basingstoke website, basingstoke.gov.uk, master plan principles of the town centre. I would like to know the status of that one more, not the cleaning of the bins and paintings.
Question, please. Yes.
So, are you suggesting that the cleaning of the bins and the cleaning of the top of town is not important to our residents? Oh, okay, because it's incredibly important to us. So the master plan is also extremely important to us. It was approved by the previous administration in 2022. And unfortunately, not very much got done after that. So apart from very high-level principles. So what we're doing now is we, as you in the opposition know, we don't own a lot of the land, we don't own a lot of the buildings. The master plan was very high level. We are now working very hard and very closely with officers to getting down to the next level where we're going to see significant and ambitious outcomes for the town centre.
Thank you. Now, question 4, Councillor Tustain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In my ward, there are several patches of land that are not under management by the local authorities or housing associations. And on investigation, it's been found that the land is owned by private real estate companies. Can the Cabinet member advise as to how we can pick up on these neglected areas, ensure that the relevant freeholders are contacted and at minimum requested to maintain them? Thank you.
Councillor Laura James.
Thank you for your question, Jackie. As we walked around your ward, we discussed one of these sites, I believe. It is difficult when we are dealing with private land and we have no control over them. The council only has powers when it comes to private land in very extreme cases where lack of maintenance is causing an eyesore danger or where it contravenes environmental health laws. In these cases where there is significant neglect effect on the neighbourhood, we may be able to take enforcement action under the Town and Country Planning Act. Our usual approach, though, is to start by contacting private landowners, just as you say, where there are particular issues for residents about the land or the property that is seriously affecting the local environment. Councillors concerned about the maintenance of private land in their wards can report this via the contact centre for investigation. It is also very useful if you actually provide photos and a clear location of when you're reporting this, please. Thank you.
Councillor Tustain, do you have a supplementary question? No. Thank you. Now, Councillor Dillo, question 5.
Thank you, Mayor. The ice rink is the most used sporting facility in the town and a hub for the community. When this administration took control, it knew and loudly supported residents that have been demanding that ice is kept in Basingstoke. As others in this chamber and I have said numerous times, there are hundreds of ice skaters and ice hockey players as well as professional coaches permanently on tenterhooks on whether the rink will be open, due to the desperate need for refurbishment and repairs to the stands and the ice pad. At last night's Resident Services Committee, the motion that was passed in full council last February to look at how this council can ensure that there is provision to keep ice in Basingstoke was discussed. Could the portfolio holder explain why the piece of work to investigate how a temporary rink could be implemented to mitigate any closure of the ice rink seemed to have only been instigated after the motion was passed in February, when it has been obvious for well over a year that a temporary rink would be required to ensure that ice rink users had somewhere to go whilst any refurbishment and repairs are carried out? Thank you.
Councillor Gavin James, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A timely question because we have a better answer to it. You'll remember I spoke when the motion was put in February, and I said at that point the challenge with a temporary ice rink is to organise one. I need to know when do you want it and how long for, because that's the first question I'll be asked. And as back in February, we didn't know when we want it and how long for, because at that stage there was a possibility that the ice rink would close. And you'll remember that we looked at options for including ice within the new leisure facility. So then it'd be 5 years, potentially, before a new ice rink provision was made. It could be that the existing provision carried on for 4.5 years and then ours was built at the same time. And then we wouldn't need a temporary ice rink. You can't procure on the basis of, can we ask you to just put one aside for us just in case? You can't do that. We have moved on because the leisure park is making huge progress. You don't necessarily see it on the park, but it has made huge progress. Obviously, the replacement for the aquadrome, a new leisure facility, that progress is well underway and we'll probably have further updates in the autumn. As you know, there's still a keenness from Great Wharf to come to town, and that's progressing well as well. A new EV charging hub in the leisure park as well, as we look to do that. And there's been several meetings in this council offices with other leisure operators keen to come and do business with us, and we're really excited to speak to them. All these things take time. Dealing with the specifics around a temporary ice rink, work was undertaken in terms of exploring what the potential costs were, the potential barriers and the potential difficulties. It's work that was carried out in 2019 by the previous administration. You remember back then, New River Retail, they were going to take over the leisure park. That was the vision at the time. Loads of work, looking at sites, exploring stuff. But of course, they couldn't go any further with that until such time as they knew what would happen to New River Deal. And I'd like to thank Councillor Isett, despite lots of pressure from ice users, for not getting us a temporary ice rink in 2019, because I'm not sure what we'd have done with it. And again, you didn't in 2020 and 2021. And that's the challenge, and that challenge hasn't gone away. If you can tell me when the ice rink is closing, I can work out a programme of when we get to there. But you'll have to tell me when you want the ice rink to come along.
Councillor James, it's time. Supplementary, Councillor Diller.
Thank you. It was blatantly evident in yesterday's Resident Services Committee meeting that the response to Councillor Lilly's motion was wholly inadequate and didn't offer any realistic solution to mitigate the loss of the ice rink whilst the ice pad is replaced. There is now no plan B, and time is of the essence.
Question, please.
So the question is, will the portfolio holder commit to ensure a suitable solution to keep ice in Basingstoke is in place to coincide with the scheduled repairs?
James, when we took over administration, we committed to keeping ice in Basingstoke, and we've come a long way, and that looks like in the long term, ice will be kept in Basingstoke. I cannot commit to anything else for the simple reason that the ice rink could close, and I may get no notice or 3 months' notice. Procuring a new ice rink could take 9 months to 18 months. So what we'll do is have a race. Which comes first? Will we get the temporary ice rink set up before the new ice rink opens? That's the challenge I've got. So it depends on timings. I won't make the commitment because I won't make promises I can't keep. A lot depends on where we go with Planet Ice. Our priority will always be, I want people skating in Basingstoke on ice, real ice, in a really well-maintained ice for years and years to come. And if that means that I'm not going to risk that to try and fill a small void. If we can do it, we will do it. Officers were sent away, you were there last night, they're going to do some more work and look at it again. But there is that real challenge. Forget the money issue. The issue is time. You can't buy time, and I'm going to have possibly
time.
The deal will be done. They'll tell me they're closing in 2 weeks. I can't deliver that in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Now, question to Chair of Cabinet or committees. Are there any questions to the Chair of Cabinet or committees? No. Can I then take en bloc? Is there no update? No. Sorry. Yes. Is that agreed if I take it en bloc? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. This concludes the business of this evening meeting. So I will close the meeting. Good night.